You know, there's an old expression, you're an inch away from your dreams of superstardom, and it goes away as quickly as it came. This guy had two big chances to be the greatest goalie on the planet. But in 1981 against the Russians, he gave up 8 goals for Team Canada, lost the Canada Cup. In 1986, he was the better goalie versus Patrick Roy in Game 7, Hartford, Montreal, but gave up a goal to Claude Lemieux in overtime. And you know what happened there? Montreal won the Cup, where Hartford would have probably won the Cup if Liut would have made that save. Now, Mike Liut, in my personal opinion, one of the most underrated goalies of his era, became an all-star, became an NHL MVP, became the player that a lot of people thought he was going to be. Now, although 6'2", 195, he seemed a little bigger on skates. First came to major prominence, the product of Western Ontario. Was drafted 56 overall, a steal, by the St. Louis Blues in the 1976 NHL Amateur Draft in the 4th round. Now, he was drafted from Bowling Green University, put up some dynamite numbers over 4 years. 74, 10, 12, and 0. 75, 12, 6, and 1, and 76, 13, and 5. He was a CCHA All-Star First Team in 75, and All-Star Second Team in 76. Now, he was ranked in a Hockey News Draft Preview issue as the U.S. College Hockey's number 5 prospect for the 76 NHL Draft. He was only one of a dozen goalies taken in the 76 selection. Now, he was also redshirted as a freshman in Bowling Green in 73, which extended his NCAA eligibility into the 77 season. Now, it's kind of weird what happened with his career. He took that last year of eligibility, went 18-4. Didn't sign with St. Louis. He went with the Cincinnati Stingers for his rookie campaign in 78 with an 8-12 record. Now, the last year, the Stingers, he had dynamite numbers, 23, 27, and 4 for a very, very inconsistent team. 3 shutouts with a 3.47 average. Now, when the NHL merged with WHA, of course, his NHL rights were held by St. Louis, and he spent the better part of 6 seasons there, putting up some really, really strong numbers. 23, 32, 33, 28, 21, 25, and 12 victories over 6 seasons, with average of 3.18, 3.34, 4.06, 3.72, 3.45, and 3.82. Now, St. Louis was a very strong team at the time. They were making the quarterfinals and semi-final final round on a regular basis, but again, they were a few inches away. Now, he moved over to Hartford at the tail end of the 85-7 with a 4-7-1 record. Now, this is where it gets kind of bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when he arrived in the NHL, he immediately took over starting duties for the Blues, and was voted a runner-up to Wayne Gretzky for the Hart Memorial Trophy for his efforts in the 81 season, and with a 33, 14, and 13 record. He also won the Lester B. Pearson Trophy at the league's MVP, as determined by his peers. Now, that fall, he was Canada's starting goalie in the 81 Canada Cup final, but they lost 8-1 in a very bizarre game. Russians piled on a bunch of goals in the third period, but he took most of the blame. According to published reports at the time, Liut's reputation as a top-tier goaltender would never fully recover from the thrashing he took in the game, and he would not represent Canada again in subsequent Canada Cup tournaments. Now, during his 6th season with the Blues, again, he was traded to the Whalers in exchange for Greg Millen and forward Mark Johnson. The timing of the deal was a little odd because the Blues were in first place in the North at the time of the transaction, but the reason behind the swap appeared to be money-related. Now, the Blues, one of the most budget-conscious teams in the association, moved out Liut and has reported $900,000 salary, which was tops on the team, and brought in 2 players whose combined salaries were less than we were paying Mike. This was not lost on Liut, who said, "I'm sure Blues owner Harry Ornis has been promoting a trade of some sort because of my salary." Now, with the Whalers, again, Liut provided a steadying influence. In his 2nd season with the club, he led the NHL in shutouts with 4. In the same season, again, Liut backstopped the Whalers into the Admiral Division semifinals, where Montreal outlasted him 7 games in a memorable playoff. We all know that the Hartford had a chance to lay down and die in Game 6, but won it, sent back to Montreal. and a late goal allowed Hartford to tie it up. But of course, Clothes got a score in overtime, one of the biggest goals in Canadian hockey history. Now the Canadians again went on to win the Stanley Cup that year. Now, but the next year, Liut led the Whalers to their first and only Adams Division title, and was named to the league's second All-Star squad. He also posted the league's best goals against average with the Whalers in 1990. Now, he was eventually traded to the Capitals late in the 90 campaign and left Hartford holding 14 franchise goalie records and sharing 6 other records. With the Capitals, Liut joined another veteran, Don Beaupre, in handling the goaltending duties, and his acquisition proved important in the postseason when Beaupre was fouled by an injury, pressing Liut in the service versus the Rangers. Liut won 3 straight games, including the last 2 in overtime, to send the Capitals to their first ever semifinal berth to face the Bruins, where they were swept out of the playoffs. His heroics versus the Rangers would prove to be his last hurrah, as he spent 2 more seasons with the Capitals, but had difficulty maintaining his workhorse status because of a failing back, an ailment that led to his retirement in '92. Now, Liut at the time was the last active WHA goalie in the NHL upon his retirement. Of course, Messi and a few other WHA players were still around, including Gretzky. Now, following his playing career, he joined the University of Michigan as an AC in '95 until the end of the '98 season. He received a law degree in '95 and now heads the ice hockey division at global sports management leader Octagon. Now, Liut, big family of hockey. He's a second cousin of NHL player Ron Francis, who was also his teammate on the Whalers. Now, Liut was also amongst a handful of goaltenders to sport a plain white mask throughout his NHL career, opting not to use customized artwork on his mask. A new announcing goalie, for sure. Now, career achievements again. Ted Lindsay Award was formerly Lester B. Pearson. Voted MVP by the NHLPA in '81, first team All-Star in '81, second team All-Star in '87, goals against average leader 2.53 in 1990, NHL All-Star Game selection in '81, NHL shutout leader in '87 and 1990, silver for Team Canada at the Canada Cup in '81. He led the NHL in games played and minutes played in '82 and '83, most wins by a goalie in the decade of the '80s, most shutouts by a goalie in the decade of the '80s, most games played by a goalie in the 1980s with 544, and most minutes played by a goalie in the 1980s, 31,597. So final NHL totals: 293 wins, 271 losses, 71 ties, 38,000 minutes played, 25 shutouts, 3.49 average. Decent playoff record, 29 and 32 with 2 shutouts with a 3.38 average. And again, the Canada Cup 4-1-1. Now, on a university level, first team CCHA in '75, second team in '76, first team in '77, and CCHA Player of the Year in '77. And again, NHL Pearson in '81, All-Star Game in '81, first All-Star team in '81, second All-Star team in '87. Now, another breakdown I just want you to hear here. He played his first game against Boston in 1979, October 23rd. His famous number 1 was, again, very well appreciated by the young fans, very good with the public. Now, the All-Star Game, he was also, of course, the All-Star Game MVP in '81. Now, other awards: Sporting News All-Star First Team, '81 St. Louis, '87 in Hartford. Hockey News All-Star First Team in '87 in Hartford. Again, the MVP in the '81 All-Star Game. St. Louis Star of the Game Award, 80 to 82 inclusive. St. Louis Most Popular Player in 1980. St. Louis Fans Favorite Award, 81 to 83 inclusive. Hartford Kravitz Award MVP in '87. Hartford Booster Club Award MVP 87-88. Hartford Wrestling Award 3 Stars Leader in '87. Now again, St. Louis records: most career games by a goalie, 347. Most career minutes, 20,010. Most career goals allowed, 1,149. Most goals allowed in one season, 250 and 82. Most career wins, 151. Most career playoff games, 39. And most career playoff minutes, 2,326. Now, he once broke a record, since tied, most consecutive wins by a Hartford goalie between 86-88 and 87-88. Record share with Kay Whitmore. Again, NHL goals against leader in 1990. Shutouts leader those 2 seasons. Again, NHL goalies game played leader 82-83. NHL minutes leader, 82-83. NHL wins leader, 1980. Playoff shutouts leader for Hartford with 1 in 86. Goals against average leader, 1.90 in Hartford. Not good enough to beat Montreal, of course. He was also a TV star. He worked as a color commentator for ESPN and Sports Channel during the 88 and 89 Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, his first NHL game was interesting. He entered it at the start of the second period with St. Louis down 5-1. They eventually came back for a 5-5 tie. Now, he made his first NHL start in St. Louis's October 24th, 79 loss in Minnesota. He also set the St. Louis single season record for games played, minutes, wins, goals allowed, of course. Now, this is where the injuries came in. He had a really bad groin injury in 81, suffered in the January 10th game again against LA. Now, he also became the first St. Louis goalie to win all games in the season versus one team when he achieved a feat versus Vancouver and the Rangers in 81. Now, St. Louis records true to the roof, like I was saying. Now, again, he missed part of the 88 playoffs with a strained shoulder, and again, with the last former WHA to go only to be active in NHL, that showed a lot because there was a lot of good goalies that kind of faded away around the late 80s, early 90s. Now, the 92 back spasm, the herniated disc in the back, was a secondary injury after a practice by the Capitals in LA. He had an epidural block performed on March 30th, 92, but was unable to return to action. The back injury was so severe it prevented him from standing up straight without pain, and all but ended his career. Now, he was also a big union organizer as he sat in the NHLPA negotiating committee in 92 as players and owners negotiated a new collective. Now, he interviewed for Hartford's GM job, but was not offered a position in June of 92. It was a disappointment to him since he had hoped to retire and take that job. He eventually released by Washington on June 5th, 92, after playing out his option. Now, chose to retire at the young age of 36 rather than attempt to find a new team. Now, non-NHL awards and honors again. Bowling Green Athletic Hall of Fame inducted 1982. Bowling Green Sears Award MVP and 77 co-winner. He was drafted by New England in 50th overall in the 5th round in 76. He was a WHA shutout leader in 79 with 3. Now, like I said before, he was named Michigan's volunteer assistant coach prior to the 95 season and remained there for the next few years. He worked exclusively with Michigan goaltenders. Now, his law degree came from Detroit College of Law, which is now part of Michigan State. Now, with the Bowling Green records he set, which is since broken, for career victories with 53 and shutouts with 4. His WHA rights were eventually traded with a 1979 second-round pick, never used since the league had folded, by New England Cincinnati in exchange for Greg Carroll and Brian Maxwell in May 77. Now, he missed part of the 78th season with a torn cartilage in his knee, injury that required off-season surgery. He also played on the Cincinnati team that folded after the 79 campaign as the WHA prepared to merge with the NHL. Again, these rights were claimed by Edmonton in the dispersal draft, but of course St. Louis, he decided to go there. Now, he played on St. Louis's charity softball team during his playing days. Now, his activities and charities are well known, especially during years in Hartford, working with the Whalers anti-drug program, the Hartford Boys Club, and Yukon Children's Cancer Fund. When he moved to Troy, Michigan, after his retirement, of course, it was to enter law school. Now, he also worked for the NHLPA while he was attending law school. Now, he eventually became a player agent, working first with Brian Lawton and then merging the firm into Larry Kelly's Octagon Limited. He became director of Octagon's office in Detroit. His list of clients has included key players such as Sergei Fedorov, Sean Burke, Steve Duchesne, Bob Asenza, Ben Clymer, Fedor Fedorov, and Ryan Miller. Now, Markham of the OPJHL, his old stomping grounds, retired his sweater as part of a tribute to his history of top goalies in January 2000. Now, he was also named to CCHA's 1970s All-Decade Team in March 2001. Now, he's also the father of junior hockey player Justin Liut. Now, talking about the situation with Edmonton picking him, Liut did not sign with St. Louis after the draft. Instead, again, he jumped to WHA. He didn't enter the NHL until the merger. Then St. Louis took his pro hockey rights back from Edmonton in the NHL reclaim draft on June 9, 1979. Nearly 6 years later, St. Louis traded Liut in future considerations, of course, which was Jorgen Pettersson, to Hartford for Johnson and Greg Millen. Now, the million-dollar question, it's quite a career. Does Mike Liut deserve to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame? Well, it's like this. Was he the top goalie of the 1980s? Statistically, yes. Sure, he never won a cup. Sure, the Canada Cup in '81 was really hard on him, but he survived the last of the WHA to really establish St. Louis as a new power. He almost won a cup in Hartford, were it not for the Montreal Canadiens. Who knows, he could have won one or two cups or made one or two finals. He was this close to being the superstar that a lot of people predicted. But the problem is with Liut, he never played for a Canadian team, so if he would have played for the Montreal Canadiens or the Toronto Maple Leafs, Vancouver, it might have been a little bit easier for us to talk about it. But the thing is, even though he's from Ontario, he had a great connection with the fans in Hartford, great connection to fans in St. Louis, loved in Cincinnati, loved in Washington. And when you're playing for four of the most important American hockey franchises of the 1980s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I mean, you look at like I said, you look at the rough stats. You include the WHEs up to 324 regular season victories. The average is not there, but geez, he was seeing a lot of pucks in St. Louis and Hartford. And the only year he had, I think, what do you call a regular average was that second year in St. Louis in 1980 with a 3.18. But you got to look at that 81 season. Technically, he was reaching superstar status. The only thing I can compare it with when Don Edwards in the late 70s was becoming the elite goalie that he should have, but he never hit that next level. But I think the loss of the Russians in 81 really messed up his head. Because you look at the stats the next year, his wins were down by 5, his losses were up by 14, and his average was up by 0.7. And he was seeing more rubbers. But the thing is, St. Louis theory, like he helped St. Louis to three big kind of playoff runs in the 1980s. And, he was going up against Edmonton, Chicago, Calgary, and all that. But, again, Washington in 1990, when he came in as a replacement, in the playoffs. Boys, that was Boston had a good team that year. He swept them, but my God. I think, again, if Liut would have got a little bit of help, he would have knocked off Boston in 6 or 7 games. The man was getting a lot of rubber, ladies and gentlemen, on a regular basis. And you look at the save percentages too, like 88%. It's pretty decent for what he's seen. So again, I personally believe Liut should be in a Hockey Hall of Fame, but let me know what you think. If you like Mike Liut, if you're a fan. He's a lot of fans out there, but if you're just looking at Canada Cup in '81, you're saying, why would you put him in the Hall of Fame? But every goalie has a bad game. It just happened he had a bad game in front of 200 million fans, technically. So that's the story of the great Mike Liut. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, like many people in life, you're only good as your last game. And Mike Liut had enough good last games to last him a lifetime. He has my respect. And if you like Mike Liut, let me know. And if you don't think he should be in a Hockey Hall of Fame, well, give me a reason why or why not. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Always appreciate it. Keep the requests coming, and keep your stick in the ice. Bye.